to break that down, to educate people on what's good food, just food sovereignty in general.
Well, I give you a little history on that. I know at one point we had the original gardens in the ghetto, and that was at the Oakland Community School Learning Center. It was a teaching tool for the children. And we had a plot, I think about 10 by 10, or maybe a little bit bigger, the science teacher created, and the children learned how to grow healthy organic food. And also learned the concept of healthy organics. And we were probably the first who actually started testing our children and in the community East Oakland for food allergies. And all the food that they were served was wholesome, organic, real organically grown, because it was grown by local entities during that period of the 60s and 70s. So the idea of food sovereignty is so important. Look at West Oakland, right, JR? Hey, the store that they had has closed. So was never what we call healthy food, where you had a large variety of produce, like you walk into Berkeley Bowl, right? And just stuff, that's the kind of thing. And it was not given, and the nutritional breakfasts, which we started off with the breakfasts, and they might not have been, they were Denny style breakfasts, but they were still wholesome and nutritional. And the first breakfast programs, lunch programs, Oakland used to have a dinner program, which we pioneered, the school district. They cut all that out. But the initial programs were consisted of healthy, wholesome vegetables and food. You teach them and teach them early. Our children learned early about eating healthy. Many times they didn't want to eat a lot of meat at all because of the vegetables and also the seasonings and how we cooked it. They were weaned on that. And that is a process that has to be done. When you have food deserts that are lacking the healthy nutritional foods, that is something that needs to take place. And calling accountable, why hasn't the city, it doesn't cost them a gazillion dollars to create a program like that that would constantly service our communities. They don't want to do it. That's the reason why. Thank you for that question.
And I also just want to add observation and participation, which is what the Panthers taught. They was involved in growing the food so people had more respect for food and more respect for health. We had more of a concept of how it was grown, what we should be expecting, what is real food and what is GMO. When I grew up, I didn't grow up in a Black Panther household. We grew up on candy and all kind of stuff. I later on learned what was, how if it didn't grow from the earth, we shouldn't be eating it. I had to learn that concept. So, you know what I'm saying? I think it comes down to education also, as well as exposure and giving people the ability to play a part in their own self-determination and learning with their own hands. Anybody else? Bye.
Hi, I'm Leanne.
How you doing?
I have so many questions I'll ask. I actually have so many questions, but I'll ask one question. So, I'm from Jamaica, and so my question is probably in a book somewhere, but since you're here, my question is how then, and I guess now, let's say then, did the Black Panthers kind of interact with the diaspora in the United States, the Black diaspora, right? So, I mean, you mentioned earlier, obviously Algeria, and all different places, and the reggae artists. So, what was the interaction then? Did you feel it was supportive, interactive, or were we kind of insular? Because sometimes I do find that immigrant communities can kind of clump, and then even I think African Americans can kind of clump, really safety oriented, I can imagine. And so, how was that mixing across the different kinds of nationalities?
Well, that's a great question. That missing element of the story and history. Remember I mentioned earlier how the brothers and sisters, you could travel. There weren't the restrictions that you had now, right? You could get checked, you could take your bag. So brothers and sisters from all over the diaspora would regularly come to Black Panther Party Central Headquarters, or they would come to other chapters and branches. And there would be this, what we call one-on-one interaction. That knowledge and that interaction has been lost over generations. It's no different than the knowledge of the struggle that has been lost by Black Americans here in America. And when they find out about it, they get angry also. But the thing about it is that is part of it. We understand. And the idea is to let our brothers and sisters know whether you from, as Fat Joe said, if you from Puerto Rico, you black, okay? If you from this, they don't look at you. You could be walking down the street, and I think our brothers and sisters are learning this, telling the police I'm an immigrant. No, you a black Negro, you black nigger to me. So that knowledge of the interaction of people from all over the world. We tell the story of that concert we did at Merritt College, Olympic Live, was sponsored by Iranians, Arab students, Palestinian students, the Black Student Unions, all these folks had come together. So they don't know the true story of the paving the way that not only Black Panther Party members, but also our community workers, who were brothers and sisters who might not have been party members but did the work, how they paved the way for everybody to come. And that's why we talked about the original Rainbow Coalition. And for our brothers and sisters from the diaspora that look like us, there was a connection of interaction. Imagine us telling that story of how, wherever you came from, brothers and sisters in Jamaica, who they were and how they were part of the struggle here in America. It's the same thing in Ethiopia anyway. Everybody was engaged. They don't know that story. That's what needs to be told.
I want to just say something. I think I think this is where what you was asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you wanted to know how it was directly connected with different black people from. Okay, so I want to speak to the Young Lords of the Black Panther Party. Young Lords were Puerto Ricans. That was basically an organization. Puerto Ricans that was similar to the Black Panther Party for the Puerto Rican community. And in New York, they had the Lincoln Detox Center where the Black Panthers and the Young Lords ran a detox center. Dr. Mutulu Shakur was a part of it, and other people, who was the stepfather of Tupac, but he was a part of it where they would cure heroin addiction. And that's what they were specializing in. That was one. But you also have political prisoner exiles like Assata Shakur in Cuba. You also have one, Pete O'Neill in Tanzania, Arusha. But you have people that work with different organizations in the Bay Area. They worked with the Brown Berets, that was Mexicans. They worked with the Red Guard, that was Asians. You know, the PLO, Huey Newton is famous for, has a famous picture working with the Palestinian Liberation Organization. So there was a lot of people that was dealing on a lot of different levels with the Black Panther Party.
And as again, it's that lost knowledge. It's not knowing those facts. Like you just like, oh wow, on both ends. So this is what people don't know. Once they know that, they want to know more, then they realize that we all had a part. And that pure was that ear cluster form that Dr. Small, the Chinese, taught. And we always tell this, JR, the Chinese community in America was closed. Remember, they got on Bruce Lee's case for teaching right here in Oakland, where they recently recognized the historical center, and he was very aware of the Black Panther Party. There's a story behind that. But just as JR has mentioned, all these avenues and all these concepts, that is what has been lost to interaction. And now is the time for us to be able to tell that story of everyone interacting. You could not come to America and then all of a sudden you thought, I'm here, they love me. No, they don't. They hate you just as much as they hate everybody. Well, what is the real issue? So then it was a matter of, we're going to break it down to you, brothers and sisters. Then we're all going to work together to make sure that we all are able to survive.
Did we answer?
Yes, you definitely did. I mean, one of the things I'm going to say is you mentioned power, and some white folks who said that they think that is the real representation of Black people in America, and as I laughed, but then I realized that unfortunately, having come from another country, I think that this is also the image that a lot of people get of African Americans in other countries, which sometimes when they are is it kind of just sort of ignorance about what really is going on here, then, now, and then also because of that, I think that can stir up division, and I'll just speak to the Black African diaspora, whether here or abroad, and I think it can be divisive. Well, I know it can be divisive, and so the media also, within our own group of Black people, is also divisive. And I have one last question, I'll be off.
But don't you expect them to be? I mean, they're not on our team. The only media that's on our team is the media we create. And whether it was the Black Panther newspaper then, whether it's some of the shows that I talked about personally, everything else is against us. They have the counterintelligence program. That's for the freedom fighter people. But for the media, they have Operation Mockingbird, and that's the CIA worked to. First off, they have a black budget that creates movies. That's why every year you see, and it comes out of Operation Mockingbird, Black Panther. Whether you talk about the one by Ryan Coogler, if you look at it, they was helping the CIA in the end of it. If you take all of the little costumes and the love and the dancing and all of that, they was helping the CIA. Then it was Bad Boys. Then it was, who else? Who else is there? I mean, Beverly Hills Cop, I think this summer. It was Beverly Hills Cop. But if you notice, there's always a program to have a cool police officer movie, or a song with the Lil Wayne, like, dee, where he talked about liking the police girl. Now, where does all this come from? Is everybody fascinated with just liking police? No, there's a budget for that. And Operation Mockingbird is one of the ways that you see them talk about it a little bit. The Pentagon has a black budget to create this. And when you look at people like, basically these celebrities are creations to push the state agenda. Hollywood's job is to create a state agenda and have us support it. How do they do that? They do it through the media.
And I took a mention, I talked to a Malaysian student when he first came here, and he's made it a campaign. He goes back to his country and tells them the truth about his black brothers and sisters. When he came over here, the immigration department showed him a picture of death with the sickle, and he said, a black brother with a hoodie. And he said, they told him, don't affiliate with him. Well, you're going to drop me off into the community. I can't help it, but don't affiliate with them. Don't talk to them. Don't work with them. Don't go to any of their meetings. Don't go to the schools. Don't let them in your house. It's part of it. So when he found us, so they were comparing death to a young black man in a hoodie. This is what will happen to you, and you may not be a citizen in America. This is what they directly told him and his family. So how many times, again, does that play out? So therefore, when you come over, like you said, they're all thugs. I watch the movies. I see those black people in America. Stay away from them, because if you don't, you might not be able to stay in America. And that is the new threat that is coming, and it's already here.
That other question was, I guess since George Floyd and all that, there's been a lot more DEI. You mentioned that something about that earlier, DEI. Efforts, diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And I work for a big corporate place, and I kind of side-eye because I'm like, I don't really know what this is about. Is it real? Is it not real? There are all of these. So I just wanted to know if you have any thoughts about that. And then the other thing that's not directly related, but I hear all these acronyms: CRT, critical race theory, just kind of incorporated. That's a lot. I understand that's a lot, but just kind of, there's a lot of efforts, it seems, to be more integrating and to support Black people, and I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts about those.
Basically, every program, as we mentioned before, DEI, the whole affirmative action, all these were what we call programs that went nowhere. They were token concepts, and they were created by government agencies. They never really had any real meaning. Like in the tech industry, the diversity hiring officer was a token position. They never had any power. Most of them don't exist anymore. So those kinds of things were created by those very agencies that really have no meaning. So for them to easily take these things away, we were talking about earlier that in Alabama State University, they kicked the BS, the Black Student Union, they took away their office. So what we're seeing is these concepts were government agencies, they were set up, and the great takeaway is to say, here's your punishment, and here is the imperialist, supremacist agenda that never stopped. What we did, we created and won battles in this ongoing struggle. But the agenda that you see rolling out today was created generations ago. And just like us, we always say change is not an event, it's a step-by-step process. They have and continue to adapt that. That's how we have to look at it. Just this last statement in 2016, you remember when we had the big 50th anniversary celebration, when Oakland was lit up and people came from 30 nations. It was amazing, 4 days. I was in the museum, State Department guy, about 6'6", walks up to me. And he says, and my name tag. He says, I want to shake your hand, you guys deserve the best. I said, who are you? He said, I work with the State Department. He said, what made you dangerous was that you understood, you knew the chess game, and you were teaching everyone else how to play that chess game. You were able to stay a step ahead of us. And I asked him, when you guys said it, was everything on the table? Everything discrediting us to, and he said it out of his own mouth, to making you disappear? He said, yes, it was. He said, but that's what made you so dangerous, was you were able to decipher, to disseminate, to understand, and then break it down to the community. That was an element. So.
I just wanted to add on to something, that we are all somewhat a part of in Oakland. There's Jalen Brown and Jason Kidd supposed to be giving money. Yeah, but me, I'm very suspicious of that. And I'm suspicious because the Black community has been always pimped on for corporate justification. And, I haven't seen any money or application or anything on how they're going to apply this money, but I've seen about 5 to 6 stories on it. So I'm saying, I asked Jalen Brown personally, how's it going to work? And him and his team didn't have nothing laid out. But you were out there doing news conferences and stuff like that. Now, let's be for real. I'm not saying that Jalen Brown is the enemy, but let's hope that he does the right thing because we are watching. Now, I'm just using him as the latest example, but corporations always do this, or corporate created individuals always pimp off the Black community. We seen it during the George Floyd. Everybody was throwing all this money, and then when it stopped being popular, then they backed off. 2 years later, they backed off. Now you're seeing all the funding dry up right now because it wasn't never really in their heart. It was for optics. It was for justification. It was, oh, we're not racist. When in reality, they're not. They're doing all this symbolic stuff. Just like we not sexist, so we're gonna put Kamala Harris up there. But she promoted all the same ideas that Biden just promoted. We think there should be change from this right here. So why would we go again with that just because you put it in female face or in black face? You know what I mean? I think that we have to be very clear on what we believe.
I just want to mention, that whole concept you were talking about. You and I had a brief conversation concerning the Oakland Exchange. Let me say this. Sometimes the wrong people whisper in people's ears. Jalen Brown, 2 years, 2.5 years ago or so, we did a workshop in Berkeley because he went to UC Berkeley. And he had all these youth. And he actually brought the chairman. Chairman Bobby came out at the time, and the youth were amazing. The books he had, they were just clamoring around him. And I taught 2 of the youth sessions. So his heart, when he said, I am dedicating everything that I am, his mama really raised him right. So when nothing has happened, how do we tell them, like we used to do, this is not working? And just like you said, it is very, very vague. The same players, the same people talking that no talk, going nowhere. And I observe all of it. JR is absolutely right there. When you ask them, when you talk to Trevor, there's no definitive answer on how this is going to get in the hands of the community. And if there's any money, they even present it. Where is it? How much? What is your starting point? So it's a lot of charades and cover and other, the wrong people clamoring around this young man who really, and actually he was the driving force behind Jason Kidd, because he wasn't doing anything. Because Jalen got the idea. In Boston, he has a building. It's heart-wrenching. He really hates the city, but he won the championship. He raced the city. But $250,000 median net worth of a white family. The black family's net worth in Boston is $8. Now, we can mirror this all over America. It might be a little bit more some places, but it's about the same everywhere. So, JR, you're absolutely right. That whole concept is a bunch of charades. They're just people jockeying to see what they can get their hands on. They live in silos. In other words, I got this going that's not related to your community. So part of what we do, and part of what we're talking about here, is to expose the truth. I don't have to tear you down as an individual, but I can definitely decipher and dismantle what you're not doing.
We can also put you to the test. Anybody else got something they want to say or add to the